Harry will tell himself anything that helps him keep his victim mentality. Some people just don't like to appreciate their blessings. They like feeling like they're suffering and everyone else is not. So they will find something wrong with everything, and that's mental illness, and we should not drink and drive, and we should wear our seatbelts. These rules are there for a reason. From user Smiley7164, well said. I think this indicates a big theme with Harry and Meghan. They'll tell themselves anything, any version of events, if it makes it feel more true and justified. And this is exactly what the problem with their Oprah and Netflix projects and Spare were, and even Archetypes. All of their interviews and projects thus far, and probably Meghan's new show too, is going to all feel like it's just another way for them to justify their choices. And this is why in a recent video we were talking about how a lot of this just feels like an avoidance of the very obvious and palpable downgrade that Harry and Meghan have experienced in life and status. When they left the royal family, they fully bluffed. They thought they would be asked back because they're so full of themselves that they literally thought that they were that important and pivotal to the monarchy that there was no way they could proceed without Harry and Meghan on board. Huge miscalculation, of course, but they thought they would be asked back. And when they first did Oprah and they kind of dragged their feet with coming back to the table, they thought that Oprah would be the catalyst that forced the royal family back to the negotiating table for them to get a deal of how to move forward in a way that they wanted. And ever since then, they have been slapped in the face repeatedly with the reality that they quit their high status, high profile jobs and are now just known people. Infamous, really. And that comes with a whole different dynamic and much less glitz and glam and much less status. And it's totally a different ballgame. And they did not think they were that unimportant. But they were. And so now everything they do, they're just trying to tell themselves that this is better for them. That's how it feels. It feels like they're constantly trying to convince themselves and everyone else that they were justified in their choices and that they made the right moves. Leave it in the comments what you think. I'm Beebs Kelley. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. Today we are talking more about Harry and Meghan and the mess that they've created for themselves. Symbolize Me says, why do I always see Meghan being sweet and adorable, but everyone hates her? I think because it comes across so fake. We did do a video recently talking about how it's not so much that everybody hates Harry and Meghan, but that they don't feel like accepting Harry and Meghan's nonsense, bullshit, horse hockey. Okay? People don't feel like accepting that because of everything Harry and Meghan did. It's not that they hate Harry and Meghan. Nobody cares that much about Harry and Meghan. It's just that people reject what Harry and Meghan are bringing to the table because it is inauthentic. They are usually taking other people's ideas or things that are already out there in the world and trying to make it their own or take ownership of it. It's because of the way Harry and Meghan act, the hypocrisy. That's why people don't like them. And Meghan's sweetness, adorableness comes across as incredibly fake. It comes across as curated on purpose. Like she's choosing to do it to create that image because she wants you to think that she's sweet and adorable and would have never done anything wrong in the past. She would have never just said lies on Oprah and in Netflix. No, she's too sweet and intentional for it. But no, it doesn't come across as authentic and it doesn't match past behaviors. So that is why people don't like them. It's not real. Honey Owen says, it will be hard for them to adjust to this new organism. This is a quote that Meghan said in Netflix. She was explaining that she was like an organism that came into the royal family and they were like, what is this? That's what she said. I'll see if I can find the clip. That explains her entire royal life failure. According to her, they were supposed to adjust, not her. And this is exactly true. She clearly thought that she being the new one, getting press at the time because people were curious about who she was, went to her head and made her think that they needed to bend to her and make her feel comfortable and welcome, not that she needed to understand she was entering into a job. She was hired as a senior working royal. Yes, it's a weird gig. Yes, it comes with a totally strange dynamic that's hard for a lot of people to imagine, but it was still a job with like requirements and coworkers that you need to get along with. And that is a good catch, that when she was explaining it, she said they need to adjust to the new organism, not that she needed to take some accountability and adjust to the job. She clearly didn't give any room to try to do things the way they asked. Why I don't think they will get a divorce anytime soon. So I have said ever since the divorce rumors started swirling that I don't believe Harry and Meghan will be getting a divorce anytime soon at all. Largely because Harry and Meghan have doubled down on a lot of things since leaving the royal family, and because they both isolated themselves to such great extent. Really, they only have each other, and they've created this sort of toxic codependency that's pretty common when there is high levels of narcissism involved in a relationship, where it creates this it's us against the world dynamic, where then both of the people feel like it's better to stay and have somebody on your side than leave, no matter how bad things get within the relationship. It's incredibly common when dealing with narcissism on either or both sides of a relationship. And it's part of what traps people in those relationships, because they do become isolated, and then they do feel, because a narcissist and Harry and Meghan are not always bad. They're not 100% bad 100% of the time. Nobody is. Because that doesn't serve anybody anyway. They do have times where they are nice and kind and looking out for people, and even if it's a facade, even if it's ulterior motives, even if there's some reason that's advantageous to them and it's very self-serving, they're still sometimes doing nice things for other people, and that can include their partner. So some of the time, Harry and Meghan are validating each other, calming each other's anxieties, telling each other that they made the right choice, that there was no other option but to leave, and no other option than to do Oprah, and no other option than to do Netflix, because how else would we stay safe? They tell each other these things, and so they need that from each other. Also, clearly, Harry and Meghan stubbornly think that they are right and want other people to agree with that. That's why they refuse to accept press that's objective and sometimes critical of their behavior and actions, and why they fight so hard against press and critics and voices that sometimes are saying this is the truth and it doesn't look so great for Harry and Meghan. Can't handle criticisms. Therefore, it would be logical to believe that Harry and Meghan would not be willing to accept to the public that they were mistaken in their union, and that they did make mistakes, and they aren't all true love, salt and pepper moved together, all of that. And that's in fact an interesting point, that when Harry and Meghan were first saying, it was mostly Meghan, but when they were first saying such big statements about their marriage and them as a couple, that salt and pepper always move together, and that these two palm trees are us, and we're joined forevermore, and it was always meant to be the greatest love story ever told. These are all quotes from Meghan, and some of them from Harry as well, about marrying for love, not fitting the mold, all of this stuff. Painted this big, larger-than-life picture of them at their union being perfect and so soulfully, cosmically meant to be, that even they can't live up to the monster that they created, the status that they created, that they have the best romance and the best relationship and the best dynamic. They can't even live up to that, because that's not realistic. No matter how much you love your spouse and how much you're in love with them and feel that it was all meant to be, and you know it's right in your soul, you're still going to have disagreements. There's still going to be times where one of you is feeling cranky or prickly and doesn't want to hold hands, whatever. Or you're going to disagree about things, even if it's little things, and you're not going to 100% be marinating in perfect marital bliss. But that is the picture that Meghan and Harry laid out for the world, and it has fallen short, because we have seen Harry looking miserable. We have seen Meghan getting irritated with Harry. We have seen Meghan demanding he hold hands when he doesn't want to. We have seen Meghan bossing him around and taking advantage and pushing her way in and bothering him, basically. And we've seen Harry say and do things that don't necessarily look great for Meghan either, aren't necessarily good husband moments. And so it's yet another example of Harry and Meghan shooting themselves in the foot by being so either high narcissism that they couldn't process the possibility of this going wrong, or B, just don't understand public relations at all and didn't understand the risks of talking a big game about your relationship in such extreme, fantastical terms that then the public just notices when you're falling short of that standard that you set for yourself. But that's why. I don't think either of them want to admit they're wrong. I don't think either of them would want the public scrutiny of a divorce, and I think that they're sucked into that validating one another, it's us against the world toxic dynamic. That's just my opinion. Leave yours in the comments. Tisha Pratt says mental health was always Harry's thing because of his mother's death. Then along comes Markle and makes her mental health bigger and more drastic than Harry because she was being mistreated by Harry's family. Harry likely not quite sure of the cause of Markle's mental health crisis, but it definitely puts him in the background, and his mother's death is Harry's signature story. He wishes she would stick to her own signature story about the dish detergent. That's funny. Perhaps, yes. Although, he does seem to have a strange affliction. You know, like, you could think that Meghan sometimes leaning into her weird Diana obsessions and sometimes dressing like Diana and stuff might offer Harry a source of comfort in a way, in a weird way, and it not be that big of a deal. But because they've both spoken about it in weird ways, Meghan told people that she communicates with Diana's ghost, like just really weird manipulative stuff. And then the whole Elizabeth Arden cream has tainted this dynamic in a really strange way where it feels bizarre to people watching it. And if you're a public figure, you should be mindful of that. But it's a very good point and indicative of Meghan's narcissistic tendencies and her selfish tendencies that because mental health has always been a narrative that Harry keeps, you know, in his public-facing spaces that he discusses regularly and supports, you know, at least he claims to support mental health initiatives, that then her way of sort of making that her own and taking some of that from him was to have a bigger, worse, more intense mental health crisis because she was pregnant at the time, because she felt extremes. We can put it that way. You have to be careful about what you say on YouTube, but that is a way of kind of taking it and then running further, and that's not a polite thing to do. Just on its own, looking at that objectively, that observation of yours objectively, I think you might be onto something there. Mary Mathis asked, if Harry and Meghan asked you to work for them, would you do it? Surely you could turn it all around for them. Probably it would take a ton of money to lure you in, and they don't even have much of that. I guess I can guess your answer. I don't know that Harry and Meghan would be worth the headache, though I do love a challenge and would find it stimulating to try to deal with the puzzle of the mess they've created for themselves. They've proven time and time again that they do not follow instructions or advice or guidance from experts who are like really high status, great reputation experts. If they won't listen to them, they won't listen to anybody. So therefore, I don't think it's worth the headache. And I think that the volume of reports from people who have worked with Harry and Meghan being so high, saying that it's been a bad experience, is a very serious warning to anybody in the future working with them. Because I mean, what are the odds that you would have dozens of people who've previously worked with you speak out negatively? What are the odds? Like, I mean, that's a lot. I think there is definite truth to those people's side of the story. Pamela says that 2024's theme for the Sussexes was Masquerade, a year in which they pretended to be real royals. Meghan launched a non-existent company. Harry received undeserved awards. Meghan attempted to be a celebrity on the red carpet, and Meghan planted bunches of PR puff pieces to let us know how terrific and successful she is. Maybe it should be fraud instead of masquerade. Great adjective for 2024 for the Sussexes. It was a train wreck. It really, really was. At the end of the day, it all just feels so amateur, and that's what I think is so interesting, is that they have that problem where they can't see that they aren't good at this stuff and can't quite figure it out. It's really unfortunate. Alberto says that Meghan does whatever she wants, and that has been her problem from the beginning. She did whatever she wanted in the royal family. She did whatever she wanted in leaving the royal family and making a big stir. She did whatever she wanted going to Uvalde. That made me mad. She did whatever she wanted with Spotify taking off for 6 months after her daughter was born. Miss Markle doesn't have any impulse control. It's causing huge headaches for everyone, especially Netflix. If you are trying to be a business person or work within the entertainment industry or really any industry, you do have to have discipline. Just because you're a big name doesn't mean you don't get to be disciplined about it and mindful about it. And I think that was a big part to Netflix pushing back the show. It wasn't just trouble with the trademark and the California fires. No, it was certainly, almost certainly, to do with the backlash of the trailer and how it was received. And Meghan going and doing those visits just emphasized and exaggerated the bad press and brought more new bad press. And in the lead up to the launch of any project, you don't want any bad press, especially unrelated bad press. Like people talking about the show and saying, we don't like the trailer, we don't think it's going to be good, is one thing. But having that plus bad press about your actions being really rude and not normal and bizarre and unacceptable, really bad press, really bad thing to have happening right before a launch. And the fact that she doesn't consider these things makes her kind of a loose cannon to deal with in the entertainment industry or in any business space. And that's just not worth the risk. Leslie Carney says, is it just me, but I haven't got a clue what Archewell stands for or what it is all about? That's everybody, I think. Meghan and Harry wanted to create their own sort of faux royal situation where they could just willy-nilly help out things that they wanted and be invited to things and do projects. But it's not just that Archewell isn't run properly and not funded in the same way. It doesn't carry the same power. The royal family's foundations and the work that they do carries the weight that it does because they are working royals. Period. End of story. You can't replicate that. You just can't. I won't criticize them for not putting out more photos of their kids out there. That said, I will criticize their choice of photo that they did put out. We don't see the kids' faces. They're not represented as individuals with full dignity within the family. Rather, they are shown as faceless props to let us see what wonderful parents Meghan and Harry are. Look at their smiling faces illuminated by the light while their kids are in the shadow, mere extras in the Meghan and Harry show. The kids could be any children in a royal tour used for a photo op. That's what the photo has the feel of. This is weird. It's like Meghan and Harry shouting, look how loved we are, aren't we wonderful? They're so out of touch and creepy. Either just show a nice normal family photo or skip it altogether. The self-indulgent option that puts the focus entirely on them was the worst option in my opinion. I would agree that's a good point, and that's what the problem with Meghan's new branding on the As Ever website is as well, that it just shows her running along with Lily trying to catch up, as some of the funny memes out there show, and it still shows them more as a prop, which opens the door to people saying you're kind of using them for your own gain, whether it be monetary or image, trying to shift your image to one that's more maybe relatable or approachable or likable, like I'm a mom too, sort of a vibe. Using them in that way rather than letting them have their own showcase or moment. It's like just either don't do it at all or fully lean into it. It's a tough one because this day and age, it is smartest to keep your kids off the internet. And once you publish a picture of your children anywhere, it's out there for forever and you lose complete control over it and it can be used in any way that any weirdo on the internet sees fit. And that's not cool and that's not nice. But Harry and Meghan have this weird space that they've created where they've created all this weirdness around their kids and all these questions around their kids. And then they're using them only in these weird ways that feel very manipulative, which also isn't fair to the children. So I agree with you completely. Keep those comments coming. I absolutely love discussing your comments in these videos. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I will see you next time. Bye!